Look, I'm going to be honest. While I am a Mix It Up ambassador, I do truly believe that Mix It Up is the one and only streaming bot that you'll ever need for your stream. It's packed full of features, it's open source, it's got so many integrations into so many different services. The community are just a bunch of lovely and supportive people. And best of all, it's a desktop application, so it doesn't cost anything. So today I'm going to give you all the fundamental knowledge in which you need to know to get this all set up and get your Mix It Up chatbot up and running. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, as you probably already are because you're already watching this, why not give this video a little cheeky little like, just, you know, just a little ding. I mean, it's not going to hurt anyone, so. But to kick off this video, first thing we need to do, which is probably a little bit self-explanatory, is actually download Mix It Up. So what you're going to do is going to go to mixitapp.com, and then from here, you can just hit the download button from the top. This will scroll you down, and then there are two ways in which you can download Mix It Up. The first is an installer, so this will just kind of install the files wherever you want on your desktop. And the second is a zip version. So if you want, you can just download the zip version and then run the program from that folder, which is pretty useful if you want to, you know, bring Mix It Up with you on different computers or different devices. You can, however, completely back up and restore your Mix It Up. So let's say in the case that your computer never decides to turn on again, you do have that backup with you. I have done a video about that, so I'll link that up in the cards over there. But for now, just download your preferred installation method for Mix It Up. So now that you've got that all downloaded, now you just need to run the application and you'll be greeted to a nice little pop-up like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to click New Streamer. You just got to accept all the license agreements, you know, the terms and conditions and whatnot. And then we're going to start the new user wizard. Now, before we click away from this screen, which I know can be really tempting just to skip, I would recommend actually clicking some of these buttons and joining the community. First of all, Discord. Again, the community are very supportive. There's so many community commands and ideas out there in the Discord for you to go and find out. So I would definitely recommend joining Discord server. Next, with the Twitter account, I would recommend just following them. So, you know, if there's any new updates, any new features, any new integrations that could possibly elevate your stream. And then lastly, with the wiki, I would 100% click this link, bookmark that page, because this is a resource which you're going to constantly refer to. It's going to be your Bible to make sure that your commands are all nice and schmick. So once we've done those things, we can just go ahead and click next. And this is going to ask us to log into the services. Now, as of the time of recording this video, there is a YouTube beta available, which you can register your interest through their Twitter account. But eventually that will get a full release. So that will just be another service within this list. But for just this video, we're just going to log into our Twitch account. So as the streamer, we can just click login with Twitch. This will just send us to an authorization page, which you can see it's a big list. Mix It Up can do a fair few things. So just go ahead and hit authorize. It says it's logged in successfully. And then when we go back to Mix It Up, it's got a little profile picture and our username there. Now, since we're using Twitch and we have the ability to connect a bot account, by default, Mix It Up will send every single chat message from the streamer's Twitch account. What you can do, however, is you can log into a secondary Twitch account, which would of course have a different username, and send all your Mix It Up messages from there. So if you wanted it, for example, as Drubot or something like that, you can always send all your chat messages through that secondary username. This is really useful if you want to kind of brand your stream that little bit more. But by default, I would kind of just recommend leaving it as just for yourself for now. Kind of build up all the automations, build up all your commands, and then go back and connect your bot account. So again, just for this video, we're just going to hit next and move past this point. This screen is essentially just explaining the overall way in which commands and actions work within Mix It Up, which we'll go over in a hot second. And next, this is a screen essentially prompting you to set up your Mixed Up backups in case something does go wrong, which again, I go through all of this in that other video, so I'd recommend going back and setting that up because there are a couple of really cool things in which we can do. Next, we're just going to hit the next button. This is going to take a hot minute to load and just, you know, initialize everything. And we're going to be greeted to the chat page. So here we are, the chat page. So this is going to be the default page in which Mix It Up always opens to. Now, You can still see this chat from, let's say, your Twitch dashboard or from your YouTube Studio backend. However, I do kind of prefer using this at times, especially I have the font size increased on my actual Mix It Up instance. And I just prefer it because it lets me easily scan through the chat messages because the font size is a little bit bigger, and I don't have the rest of the bells and whistles that comes with, Twitch or YouTube backend. It's just very, very fundamental to what I need to know on my second monitor and just kind of scan through when I need to. So essentially, you're just going to have your chat log on the left here. On the right, you're going to have all your users within your chat. And then you've got some really handy moderation tools right at the top here. Clear chat, obviously, clears your chat. You can disable the chat, and you can also pause all your commands. So these are really useful if you get bot attacked or if you get hate raided or something like that. And you just kind of need to stop everything rather than you ending stream. You can pause all your commands, you can disable the chat, you can clear the chat, wait till that kind of cools off, and then re-enable it when you need to. So again, this chat window is really handy to use, but this is not where Mix It Up shines. Mix It Up shines with its commands, its actions, and all its automations. So to show you some of the fundamentals, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and hit the hamburger menu. We're going to go into our commands, and these are your traditional chat commands where you can go exclamation mark and then a phrase, and we're going to create some dummy ones just for this. You can see here though that Mix It Up does have a whole bunch of pre-made ones. I'd recommend just kind of going through some of these in your spare time, turn some on, turn some off. Mix It Up has its own kind of shout out for itself. It's got some fundamental stuff already like set title. If you wanted to, you could also check how long the stream has been streaming for, all that kind of stuff. I would recommend going through it yourself. But what we're going to do is just going to hit custom commands from the top, and we're going to hit the new command button at the bottom, and it's going to open up our trusty command editor. Now, one of the really handy things of how Mix It Up is designed is that this command editor doesn't really change within different sections of the app. It's a really familiar experience. So once you get the hang of it in one place, essentially it's the same in the rest of the experience. So for the purposes of this video, let's say we want to set up a command that whenever someone types in exclamation mark YouTube, it will link them off to our YouTube account. So for the name, this is just our internal name for the command. So let's just do YouTube link. Next is the command group, which is essentially like categories. So since, we haven't set up anything, this is goes to be empty. So you can always just type in anything you want to create a new category. It's really handy like that. And the categories do share across all the other sections of Mix It Up, which is really handy to make sure that you're categorizing things in the same way. So for this, let's just put it in the group of socials. Next one down here, chat triggers. So you can see it says no exclamation mark needed, space separated, semicolon for multi-word. So this is essentially where we put in the terms that we want users to use to trigger this command. So of course, we're going to want YouTube. But if we want a secondary trigger, rather than creating a new command with the exact same actions, we can just use space. And then let's say we also want YT. So someone can type exclamation mark YT and also trigger the same command. For these three items at the bottom here, auto include exclamation mark, pretty self-explanatory. It means that by default, it will automatically put exclamation marks at the front of all of this. Wildcards, this is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to make a separate video on wildcards. And next is unlock command. So unlock command essentially means that when this command is triggered, it will run without sitting in any queue. By default, Mix It Up just queues all the commands to make sure that, 50 million things don't happen at once. But this is essentially manual override to say that as soon as it is triggered, Mix It Up will run all those actions immediately without waiting. Useful for some things, not useful for much other things. So I would be careful of using unlock command sparingly. For this, essentially, as it's not going to do too much and we do want people to click through to our YouTube channel as soon as possible, I'm going to turn this on for this command. Now, before we go down into the actions, we have this little usage requirements section over on the right. There are a lot of options in here, but just to start off, I'm just going to show you the first two. As to start off, this is probably all you're going to need. The first one is the user requirements. So first of all, we can restrict it per streaming platform, but more importantly is the user role. So essentially, if the user role is selected to user anyone within your stream, just if it's a normal viewer, it's a VIP, if it's a sub, if it's a moderator, if it's even yourself, you'll all be able to trigger it. But let's say you wanted to create a command that, is a bit more specific for mods. So for example, something like a ban or a kick command. If you select the role as moderator, only mods and above will be able to trigger that command. So essentially meaning that mods and yourself as the streamer will be able to trigger it. Any viewer, any subscriber, anyone else, it won't work for them. On a similar note, if we do click subscriber, this means that only subs, mods, and the streamer will only be able to use this command. You can also filter it down via tier. So this is really useful if you want to create sub incentives and sub only commands for your stream. For this, essentially, we want everyone to be able to trigger this YouTube social link. So we're just going to change that role back to user. And the next one we're going to do is we're going to click this timer, and this is cooldown. So essentially this means that how often users can redeem this command. So it's in seconds. So we can either do, let's say 30 seconds. We could do 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. We could essentially do whatever cooldown we want. But again, for this, I don't think it's going to get spammed too much. So I'm just going to set it back to 0. All these other usage requirements, you can go through them, but I would say they're a little bit more advanced. So to start off with, I'd really only stick to those two for now. But now to get to the fun stuff is all the actions. So hitting the action drop down here, this is where you can see that Mix It Up has a whole bunch of, functions and features for you to use. This is a big list, so I'm only going to show you a handful to start off with. And the first one is a chat message, which self-explanatory is sending a chat message in your chat. So within the chat message settings, we can use the toggle as send a streamer. So this will only do something if you have your bot account connected to your Mix It Up. If you don't, the toggle legitimately does nothing. Whisper on Twitch is essentially Twitch's version of DMs. And a quick note on this one, Twitch's APIs, even though Whispers is available, not really built out to send that many DMs. So I wouldn't really recommend using it that often. I would maybe only recommend using it for, let's say, a ban if you wanted to provide any sort of reason to that viewer as to why they got banned. So again, use that one sparingly. And this last button over here is a link to go back to the Mix It Up wiki, which will link to the special identifiers. Now, special identifiers, as it says at the top of the wiki, are variables. So if you wanted to pull through usernames and other dynamic values within your chat messages or within other actions, this is what the special identifiers are for. And again, while you should have the Mix It Up wiki bookmarked on your browser, this is the page you're probably going to be visiting the most, because you don't want to mistype any variables, because then automations and values won't pull through. So before we go to the special identifiers, if we just quickly go back to Mix It Up, let's type out what chat message you want to send out for whenever someone triggers this command. So let's do something like, let's put their username at the front. So, hi, John, you can visit our YouTube channel at https youtube.com/ like that. I'm going to quickly do that YT capitalization as well. So this is essentially the chat message you want to send out, but of course we don't want it to say username. We want the username to dynamically come through. And that way that message just be that little bit more personalized. So if we go back to the Mix It Up wiki, what we can do is within our page content, we can just go hit the user category. So this will pull through all the user special identifiers. And can you see at the top here that it's $username and then also or $user display name. Now, depending on actually how you format this chat message, it kind of depends on whether you should use username or user display name. If you want to tag them in the message, so like you do in any other Twitch message where you can put @ and then the username, I would recommend using $username. If you just want to put their name within the chat message and not really tag it or do that extra level of highlighting that message for them, then I'll do display name. And as it says, if it's for platforms that support it, otherwise it'll just display the username anyway. For this, I want that message really to highlight in chat for them so they can easily click through to that link. So it's going to do $username. So if we go back into Mix It Up and we can see where we have username here, I'm going to use $ at the front. So that's the special identifier that the username will pull through. But one more thing we want to do is, as if we're typing this message within just the normal Twitch chat, we would put the ampersand at the front to make sure it tags them within that message. So for now, we're pretty happy with this command. So we're just going to go ahead and hit the save button, and our command is now created. Now, one thing which may seem a bit basic, but is super useful within Mixitup is this little play button here, which, as the hint text says, test command. So essentially clicking this will allow you to test the command in which you just built, rather than trying to have to figure out a way of triggering it. So for example, if you've set up a subscriber event command, rather than you having to wait until someone subscribes to your channel, you can just hit test command and run all those commands as if someone had just subscribed. So if we use this for our YouTube one, we can put in the argument, and this is essentially the username of whoever triggered it. So for example, let's just leave it as myself, and we just hit test command. If we go back into our chat window, you can see that it's run the command here, and also it's highlighted our message within the chat. If we also want to test out that the triggers are also working, if we type in $YouTube, if I can spell it right, YouTube, that is sending through. And also if we do $YT, this will also send through as well. Now that's going to be your absolute bare bone basics to getting commands up and running. You can do that for all your social platforms. You could do that for, funny auto response as well. But if we quickly go back into our command, I'm just going to show you a couple more actions, which, again, a bit more basic, but can really make that stream and those automations that little bit more fun. So if we hit the edit button, this will open up the command in which we've already created. And to show you a couple other actions in which you should know, the first one I'm going to show you is wait. So again, a bit more self-explanatory, but essentially this will just wait X amount of seconds to run something. So let's say we want it to wait 2 seconds to run the next action. What we can do is we can add another action of sound. So this will essentially just play a sound effect. So when this command is triggered, it will send a chat message. It will then wait 2 seconds, and then it can play a sound. So if we just hit browse, we can open up our file explorer to go find any MP3 file or anything like that. And then we can also select the output device. So for me, I have Wavelink with all my Elgato equipment. So I can just map it to our SFX output device, and then also change the volume as well. So this is really useful if some of your sound effects are really loud, or some of them are a bit more on the soft side. So again, you can hit that play button, you can test the action, and then make sure that your sound effects, the volume's nice and consistent, so you're not destroying your viewers' ears. The last one I'm going to show you as well is the OBS action, which is within, actually not OBS, it's within streaming software. So once you enable OBS Studio connection in the services page, which we'll get to in just a second, you can change scenes, you can change source visibility, you can also change filter visibilities. So if you've partnered your Mixitup with something like Stream Effects or other OBS plugins, you can use OBS to trigger those filters and those effects and make your automations that much more expansive. This is where the creativity of Mixitup and OBS and partnering that with other tools can, make something from super basic, just super advanced and creative. It's your mind's limited, honestly. Everything I've thought of wanting to make, I've managed to somehow figure out a way how, whether it be through a new OBS plugin and then using some of these OBS actions within Mixitup, or whether it be directly within Mixitup itself. So just for this video, I'm just going to quickly delete these other actions within this command. I'm just going to hit save as well. And then from the menu button, let's quickly go down to services and show how you can hook up OBS and stuff like that, as well as some of the other services you can use with Mixitup. And again, it's a big list. Mixitup's very powerful. So you can see there's a lot. OBS from the top, if you open it up, you can essentially just hit connect. If you've got any WebSocket details, you just need to plug it in there. You can also connect up Discord. This is a very popular one to do. So, you can put your go live messages in your Discord using Mixitup. You can also connect up your Twitter. So if you want to change your Twitter name, you can also do that. But again, there's so many services. I'll leave this to you to kind of run through once you've got your hands on the main crux of Mixitup's actions and events. Now on events, actually, Mixitup has multiple ways of triggering actions and series of actions. So I'm just going to show you two more places in which to kind of create more commands and trigger them. The first one is with action groups. So if we hit the hamburger menu and we go down to action groups, now these are essentially reusable templates of actions in which you can trigger in other commands and other events. So this is really, really useful in order to make sure that if you have, let's say, a channel point redemption that's redeemed via either a channel point reward or via a moderator via a chat command, you can make sure they're triggering the same series of actions by using action groups. So if we make a new action group, let's just call this action group test, for example. Let's, in the command groups, you can see that it's already pulled through socials from our chat commands. Let's just call this rewards. Let's also just call this test reward. We're going to unlock this command, so whenever it's redeemed, it doesn't sit within any queue. And then for the action, let's just add in a chat message just for now that says, "Oh my God, what a wonderful reward." Wow, beautiful. There's actually also one other option we have up here, run one randomly. So this will actually run any of the actions within this action group randomly. So let's do that. So for example, if you wanted to, you could send a customized chat message. So instead of, "Oh my God, what a wonderful reward," it's, "Oh my goodness, what a wonderful reward." And let's do one more that says, "Oh my goodness, what a excellent reward. Wow, OMG, many wows." So we've turned run one randomly on. So essentially, whenever this action group is triggered, it will run one of these chat messages randomly. So if we hit save, let's go back within our commands. Let's make a new command that is, if we move this over here, test reward trigger. Let's make the trigger words, for example, OMG. We can put it in the group of rewards. Within our actions drop down, what you do is you select the command action. You add that in, and we're going to run a command within the command type of action group and the test reward command. So if we hit save, if we go back to our chat, and you can also see that here it's started putting, since we have multiple commands now, it's put them in category drop downs. Makes it nice and handy when you have a fair few commands, which, you know what, you'll get to, don't worry. If we go back to our chat and we send a couple of chat messages of OMG, if we remember to put the exclamation mark at the front, you'll see that we get some different variations of that chat message once it sends through. See, there we go. We don't have that many. It will look like it's duplicating since we only have 3, but trust me, it is random. You will get different options. So that's action groups. I would definitely recommend utilizing action groups. That's where I think all of my commands are actually built, and then I just trigger that action group within my other commands. But the last one I want to show you is events. So within the hamburger menu, if you go down to events, this is essentially where you can trigger your sub alerts, where you can trigger your follow alerts and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go down to Twitch since we connected our Twitch account, and you can see you have a couple of options down here. So you can see here there's followed, rated, subscribed, resubscribed, gifted, mass gifted, bits, points, charity, hype trains. There's so many different events just for Twitch. And again, this is where the wiki comes in handy to explain it all. So if we go back to the wiki, if we go into, I believe it's within commands, and we go within event commands, here it is. This will explain to you all the events and how they're triggered if you have any questions or doubts. If this doesn't answer it for you, again, that's where the Discord will come into super handy where the lovely community will be able to help you out. But yeah, I mean, I could keep on talking about what you could do with Mix It Up, not to talk myself up too much, but to name a few cool things which I've done, which I have done videos for, is Twitter Go Live notifications. So essentially when you go live, you can automatically update your Twitter name and automatically tweet out that you are live. You can do a dynamic stream title. So essentially whenever someone follows or subs to your channel, you can automatically shout them out directly within your stream title. You can do first channel point rewards. You can do daily check-ins. I mean, the sky's the limit on the creativity and what you can do with Mix It Up. But yeah, if any of that kind of stuff sounds like your cup of tea, I would most definitely recommend subscribing to the channel. But for this, I'm going to leave you here. It's been me, Drew, your friendly Mix It Up neighborhood ambassador. Treat people with kindness, stay safe, stay healthy, make good decisions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.